Call to order the Playground Working Group of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission regular meeting agenda, 8:56 a.m. on September 1st, 2022. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes for April, May 19th, and June 30th, and July 21st. And we're not going to be able to do that because we do not have a quorum. But I would like to encourage all our members to look at the minutes that Patty Bumgardner has thoughtfully put together for us and be ready to comment on them if necessary at the next meeting and vote for them at the next meeting.
Is there a way we can get, I know Pam really wants to get these minutes up. So maybe by the end of this meeting, we can vote on them.
Patty, we don't have, I can get them up as draft. So it doesn't matter. I can, I can. And then they will be approved at the next meeting. Yep.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, Susan.
Oh yeah, no problem. And I should here really quickly say that before the meeting started recording, we talked about a way to simplify the minutes so that we can get them out quickly and make it more efficient for everybody to kind of access them by maybe doing bullet points where we have a discussion piece that has a couple of bullet points about what was discussed, any major action taken with some bullet points, and the final would be follow-up action with bullet points. And the idea would be to get them out quickly to members that may have missed the meeting and public that wants to see what was discussed. We would attach if there were any documents that were discussed at the meetings, they would be attached to those points also so that people could view them. If anybody would like to see something more thorough or more detail, they could go back and watch our recording right away. Is that okay? I think we talked about it very quickly, but I think
yes.
Let's start with that, Patty. And if we could get maybe volunteers, if people can, say at the beginning of the meeting that they're willing to do that, we could switch it off. I could try to help too. It's just hard for me to focus on, running a meeting and taking notes at the same time. But I'm happy to do that too.
I'm willing to take minutes too. As you see, I did take the minutes of August 11th meeting that I also forwarded. So I'm more than happy to help as well.
Yeah. So who's at the meeting, and because obviously depending on who's present, that makes a difference too, right? Anyway, let's go on to the next agenda item, which is playground design from.
Wait. Can I say that Kathy is saying that she's been here for 10 minutes and she's waiting in the waiting room, Pam?
There is no waiting room, I thought.
I know. So maybe I'll send her the email link again. Maybe she's going on to an old one or something. Go ahead, Susan. I just wanted to let you know that though.
Thank you, Patty. Anyway, were you able to figure that out, Pam?
I don't see anybody in the waiting room.
Hi, it's Kathy. I called in.
Okay.
Hi, Kathy. Sorry, I didn't see anybody in the waiting room at all.
Yeah. It's okay. I think I might have had the wrong code, and then I wasn't getting in through Go Meeting, so I just called in.
Okay, perfect. We hear you good.
Okay, thanks for checking in. Before I forget, going back to the minutes, I meant to say that we have to take attendance too, so that's always a part of the minutes, is to take attendance for whoever's present. Okay, so that was the add-on. Anyway, let's now go back to the playground design by our playground rep, Summer Berube of Compan. Are you there, Summer? Hi.
I am. Good morning, everyone. So can I share my screen, Pam? Is that okay?
Sure. Do you want to give everybody a little feedback on you and Compan first before we go into the?
Sure. So that's the presentation. But hello, my name is Summer Berube. I've been with Compan now for about 8 years. My plan is to go over the site and then give you a little background on Compan. So I think it's really important to know who you're partnering with. And then I did put together a preliminary design that I wanted to share with everyone. Appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to put together the design and considering working together.
And I just want to add that I've been affiliated with Summer for the last, I believe, 5 years. She did come visit me here in Darien when I first started. We do have Compan playground equipment currently at Cherry Lawn toddler area. So Darien has worked with Compan in the past.
We also
And
have at the beach too, Pam.
at the beach as well?
Yeah, isn't that compound water feature?
I don't believe, maybe some of the beach equipment is the water elements, but I don't think the entire playscape is Compan. I think it's that landscape structure. But also Summer, I just want to add too, she's been a really intricate part of CRPA, our Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association, and does a lot of volunteering and sponsoring. So she's been a real good partner with that association as well. So with that, I will share my screen and see how that goes.
Thanks, Pam. Okay. You guys see my screen now? All right, good. So forgive me, I'm not as familiar with this platform, but I think we'll do just fine. So here's your beautiful park. I've been out there a few times years ago. I think, Pam, we had met about maybe adding like 1 or 2 structures, and then I visited again when I heard that you were looking to upgrade the facility. So here's the site, which I know you're all familiar with, but just to keep it fresh in our mind as we go through the preliminary design. And I put this design together just based on some feedback Pam had shared regarding some of the group's wants, including, you know, an ADA swing and making a space that's inclusive and suitable really for a wide range of abilities and ages in the town. So, and please at any point, if anyone has questions, feel free to jump in. I certainly don't mind this being a little interactive. But just to give you a little background on Compan, again, I just think this is critical. When you put a playground in, it's going to be in the ground for the next 30 years. So kids are going to be playing on it that are not even born yet. We want to make sure that their experience is as positive as the kids that have it when it's brand new. So Compan's world headquarters is in Denmark, and you are going to see a little bit of a European feel to some of our equipment. It certainly is different from what I grew up playing on. Our US headquarters is in Austin, Texas. Why this is important to the group is because I work directly for Compan. Everyone else in the playground industry is sold through distribution, and that can really be a challenge for the town down the road. I can share with you, I just met with a school in Norwalk, and they don't know, you know, where the equipment comes from. So when you purchase the Compan playground, you are purchasing from somebody that represents the manufacturer. The other benefit of us just being a large company, we started back in the 70s. So we've been around for a really long time. It helps us with our equipment, but also we are on a lot of purchasing consortiums, and that helps you just to make sure you're getting the best price. So not only are we on the Connecticut state contract, but we're also part of what was formerly known as US Communities and is now called Omnia. It's a huge buying group that allows you to get the best pricing. So what makes Compan unique? We lead the way in research. We are a research-based company led by design. We have something called the Compan Play Institute, where we're studying how kids play throughout the world, what the trends are in park and recreation, as well as educational settings. These folks have backgrounds completely in children's development, and we are doing a ton of studies on what engages kids, what makes them want to stay at the playground, what are the obstacles that they face. So in today's world, that's a lot of the electronics, right? And in the US particularly, we have kids that are not building great habits at a young age. So how can we help that? Understanding how kids develop. So I know that I'm not the first one to present to you, so you're probably all well aware of the 2 to 5 age group and the 5 to 12. But obviously, if we have any parents on the groups or aunt and uncles, you know that a 5-year-old does not play like a 12-year-old. And so when you're looking at an open park setting, you really want to make sure that the structures that you're selecting have challenge and age-appropriate risk for a wide range of kids. When Compan designs equipment, we have equipment that, of course, is in the US technically designated as 5 to 12, but we do have equipment that's better suited for specific age groups. So that was something that was on my mind when I was designing, is making sure that not only is the structure safe for the little guys, knowing that they're going to be playing on that 5 to 12 equipment, but also that for the older kids, it still is going to be something that is fun and that they want to be on, should they choose to. I know we're right at the baseball fields, so I would imagine, I'm a mom myself, like in between games, sometimes the kids go over there and it's awesome for socializing too. All ages and abilities. Compan was part of the regulations that went in back in the 90s, but this is still even more critical, I think, today than ever. It's finally being talked about regularly, which is inclusion on a playground site. And it really doesn't matter if it's a $1 million playground or a small, we call them small pocket parks that maybe have a $50,000 budget. It's critical that the site is not only compliant for the letter of the law, but also sincerely inclusive for everyone who's going to be visiting that playground. And that includes parents with disabilities as well as children. And then the highest quality durability. So this is where, if we were together, I would bring a bag and pass around a bunch of samples to share with you. Pam's probably seen them more than she would like, because I cart them to every meeting, this big heavy bag. But to me, it's very critical to understand like the quality of materials that are going to be sitting at your site. So Compan does a really phenomenal job with our hot dipped galvanized process on your posts, even if those are powder coated, zero waste process, as well as like our Robinia products, which you'll see in the marketplace. Some of you may be familiar with the core cord cables that are for climbing. Compan was the first company to ever bring those to the marketplace. And because of that, we hold the patent on the induction process. It would require a Sawzall out at the site to vandalize those products. They do not need retensioning over time. We're the only company that has different size ropes for different age groups, because the little guys have smaller hands, and that's a big reason of why they can climb appropriately. Our spinning, which you will see on the design that I put in place, has an electric motor quality, fully sealed bearing. Why that's critical in the Northeast, we get harsh winters, right, or weather's all over the place. You want to make sure that it still has that nice smooth spin for a good ride for the kids years from now. So the industry standard is a brass bushing. Something like that is a noticeable difference on the Compan equipment. And then something that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope some other folks on the call as well, is the Green Initiative. And this is something that I just think is fabulous, to be very open, working for a company that is based out of Denmark, because they sincerely care about the environment, as well as, I think a lot of us do as well. And our equipment is made from a lot of recycled materials, and we are constantly looking to reduce our CO2 emissions. We actually have on all of our product sheets standard the CO2 emissions. So this is something that the town can take pride in. We have tons of information outside of this one little slide I'm sharing, but our panels are made from 80 to 100% of post-consumer waste, as well as we have now moved all of our decks are made from post-consumer ocean recycled waste. So in addition to the fact that, it's great for the environment, for the kids that are going to be playing on this for the world that they're going to live in. It also is really superior to the decking that you've seen in the past that is metal with a coating on top of it. And what happens is that coating starts to deteriorate over time, and you will get rust on your playground, which can be not only pinch points, but just dangerous for little hands that are climbing up the units. You're not going to have any of that on a Compan playground. Those decks and panels also have a lifetime warranty. So it's really a win all the way around. And just to show you some of our green equipment, we're reducing our CO2 emissions by 54% with this line. And I'm showing you this because this is on, I did design with some of this equipment. And here is.
Can I just ask a quick question? What was the lifetime warranty on?
On the panels and the decking.
Thank you.
Sure. And the warranty I can share with you, it really depends on the equipment. And then even within each structure, it depends on like specific parts. Like for example, swing connectors are a 2-year warranty. Those are something that do need to be replaced over time. They're very inexpensive. You'll spend more on shipping than the actual parts themselves. But that is very standard, and that would be across the board with anyone you decide to partner with. So this is very preliminary, and it requires using your imaginations. If you don't like the color scheme, that's something that we can change, but I added the pops of yellow thinking about that yellow background that's on the baseball fence. I thought it would look cute to have a little bit of the same look. The surfacing that you're looking at is playground certified turf. It's a different option from the poured rubber, but certainly whatever the town prefers, we would be happy to provide. We have lots of partnerships, and we have done projects with everything.
I wanted to jump in there, Summer, and tell the folks here on the call that when Summer and I met, I did tell her that we were very interested in the poured rubber for ADA, for ADA surfacing. But she said that, you know, we did talk about the great cost of rubber. So she had said, I have never seen a turf like this at a playground. So I thought it would be really great for her to introduce this to give an option. And I think in the end, we should all maybe have an add all with our final design choices, because that poured surface is like over half of the money that we have. So very interesting option. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Summer, can you give us some local examples of where you've done this certified turf and explain the difference between that and what our kids are playing on the sports fields, please?
Yeah, and can I add one more question? Can you tell me if it's ADA accessible too? So.
Yep. So it is ADA accessible. That's actually one of the benefits of the turf. It's very short blades, but it does still have some play value to it. So it's a bit of a sensory feel for children that are looking for that stimulation. It has a 10-year warranty, which typically your rubber surfacing has a 5-year. So that's a huge advantage to the town as well. My intention is really not to persuade you one way or the other, because I think there is a savings with the turf, but it's not huge. It certainly is your preference, but there is a slight play value with the turf. It wears really well. I'm going to show you examples at the end of this presentation of sites that we've done, so you can see what it looks like. But aesthetically, it's very pleasing. And the warranty, I mean, that's a huge reason to consider it.
Does it get really hot? My son's soccer fields get really hot, the turf in the summertime.
So there is a protective coating that you can put on it for heat resistance. But it doesn't get hot to the point where it's going to cause any sort of burns on a child. Would it be uncomfortable maybe to sit on in the summer? Yes, but so would your poured rubber. It's really just, you know, in the heat of, in the middle of the summer, and especially this year, we've had such a gorgeous weather. It's not going to be as comfortable, but I mean, that's very standard.
Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to walk you through some of this equipment, and like I said, I will show you some pictures of the installed turf. And there's another site that I didn't include that I'm already regretting, but it is in Seekonk, Massachusetts. And the reason I just wish I added that, I can send you pictures after that Pam can share with the group, but it's a huge public park, and it's just a larger site than what I've included, but we'll get there.
Summer, quick
So,
question.
Yep.
Is the surface permeable?
Sorry, say that again?
Is it a permeable surface?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
And
thank
all
you.
the surfacing that I'm showing you is ADA compliant but here in the Connecticut, so are wood chips. If anyone has pushed a wheelchair, you will know, I mean, wood chips are going to be, it's super difficult for anyone with mobility impairment. Turf is a much smoother ride. And it is ADA compliant as well. So somebody had asked about compliance. Of course it's compliant, but also just to give you like the real world answer, it is certainly easy for folks that are confined to a wheelchair. All right, so looking at this 5 to 12 structure, this is the taller unit. I'll share with you, it sits at 15 feet 5 inches. One thing I love about this unit is there's a lot of graduated challenge and a huge climbing net that's on the outside, straight vertical. And then there's actually net inside as well. And that is how you get to this top slide. So if anyone has little guys that are on the call, they will not be using this big side. They will be using the smaller slides until they build up their strength, but also their courage to earn that ride to the top. Show you another view. This play panel is actually a timer. So it's great for kids when you think about how they're making games and, you know, let's see who can get around the playground first or who can spin the fastest, whatever the case. You just flip it and there's some oil that's inside of that. And we've all seen those like old oil toys or timers that you flip over, and that's exactly what it is. A turning bar, which is great for your core strength and your upper arms, and slides at multiple points. This is a 2 to 5 structure to match, and this is those 100% recyclable panels. This is a smaller, lower unit, and so there is visibility into this. If there's an adult standing by, you're going to be able to view your child inside the structure. There is an xylophone at the bottom, which is great for your sensory play. You don't have to be concerned about mallets. On this particular unit, everything is attached. And then these play panels are really fabulous for cause and effect, whether it's like, you know, dropping something through to your friend or yelling down to them. Kids at this age are doing a ton of pretend play. So this is where they're going to be serving you ice cream or, you know, making it into a shop with the underneath play as well as over top. And that's really great for their language development as well, over under play. And I incorporated a universal carousel, which is just really fun for all children. It's easy to spin. It has lots of room in there. So if you did have, for example, 2 children with mobility impairments, there would be more than enough space for them to get in together, as well as a bench for anyone who takes more comfort sitting down, you know, or wants that ride. It's just different experience too. Oops. And then, forgive me, you guys are blocking my screen, but over here to the right, I added another musical element, which is the lily pad cymbals. Those are actually tuned equipment, and so they make really a beautiful sound. It's not anything that's extremely loud, so this is not going to be disruptive to the little leaguers who are out playing a game, but it's great for sensory play as well. And adults love them too. I don't know anyone who can just walk by that equipment and not quickly grab a mallet just to have a go at it. And then of course, we did incorporate swings. And in this case, it is two of the belt seats, or excuse me, one belt seat, one full ADA, full harness, as well as two baby seats or infant seats, however you would like to describe these, but the ones that the kids will sit in. We do have, this is something I really wanted to get feedback from the group on. We do have the dual seats where it's either two, you have one out at the site today. It's either like the baby seat and then a belt seat on one side. So that's something that you could incorporate, or it's a combination of two belt seats that look at each other. So it just depends on like which age groups you would like. One thing to consider is you can't have a belt seat with a baby seat. And so if you were to put in one of those, it would have to go next to your full harness ADA seat. So just something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be decided today, but so you're aware. And the town can always purchase the seats independently too. So don't feel, whichever direction you end up going in, don't feel like you're locked into that indefinitely. You can certainly switch them out if you wanted to down the road. And then the last structure that is incorporated in this design is a spinner bowl. I know I'm showing you the aerial view, but this is an independent spinner, although the kids will play with it together. They'll spin each other. I put these are on almost every Compan site, and the reason is because for children on the autism spectrum, spinning is extremely therapeutic to them, but typical children love it as well. There's studies that show kids that spin more frequently as children, as adults, excuse me, have better balance. And so I know that sometimes when I'm on a call selling and presenting to a bunch of adults, they're like, leave the spinning off. But really, it's a very strong and good activity for children to participate in.
Summer, can I just give comment that I took two families out to two of our playgrounds. They both had multiple kids of all ages. All of the kids love those spinners. They all love them. So I'm happy to see that here. I had asked this question previously. We were told that it needed to have a certain base underneath it. Maybe that was just from someone else that was presenting and they had a lot more on their space, and we would have had to put a spinner kind of off site, so to speak, off the main site with a base. So is there a specific base under the one you have here, or you don't need it?
The only one that requires special surfacing is actually the universal carousel here, but
Okay.
It works with turf, it works with the poured rubber. It just cannot be installed with wood chips.
Okay, so the smaller spinners, I get that for that one because it's specialized. But for the smaller little spinners, you're fine. Are you saying that could go into both turf and to poured and play without any other major base underneath it?
Correct, yeah. It has a typical footer, you know, of a whole lot of concrete underneath it, but that's standard of all of our footers.
Thank you.
Sure. There is a wide use zone for spinners, so maybe that was what the other rep was meant.
I have a question too, Summer. Those little spinners, the single one, do they need much room in between? Because it seems to me like that area, and if they're so fun and it's such a great attraction to the playground, could you add a cluster of those in that section?
Potentially. I'm going to show you at the end of this the layout so you can see the zones. We might be able to add like one other, because those can overlap a little bit, Pam. They can have 3 feet between them instead of the 6 because they're like equipment. So we could double check on that. But the other thing I should mention is that they're at a relatively low cost. So that's the other reason why we add them on every playground, because there's such a high play value to what the cost is. That's a home run. Go ahead. Sarah, is it?
Sorry, Pam, sorry, did we decide that we can make it a regular square? The playground, are we expanding it so that it's, sorry, a rectangle? Does she not have?
Right, no, right, and right now we're just using the footprint that we have until we can confirm with P&Z that we can expand. But if that's the case, we'll go back to all 3 companies and say, okay, before final designs are presented to us, we'll have that footprint if it's expanded.
I just wanted to show you some pictures of equipment with the turf. So this is with concrete border around the outside, but certainly you can do a turn down edge, which is when we dig into the ground, and then you have the other soil like right up against it. That would really be the town's preference, but as you can see, aesthetically, it's a very nice look. And I also will just add, this is at Sacred Heart in Greenwich, so it's relatively close to you. We have a ton of reference sites nearby. We recently installed 7 playgrounds and 1 fitness site in Fairfield. We have 2 schools in Westport, as well as Earth Place, if anyone is familiar with that. We have equipment in Bruce Park in Greenwich. It's 2 to 5, unless they have changed that. I know at one point they were considering it. We're installing this year at the Field Club down in Greenwich. We just put in a playground at Cortlandt Avenue in Stamford, and in Ridgefield at Ballard Park, which is right downtown. That's a big compound site. Just for points of reference, again, for anyone with little children who are used to going to different sites, you might be familiar with some of the compound equipment.
Summer, where is the park in Ridgefield?
Ballard Park, the main street. It sits back a little bit, but right near all of the shops.
Thank you.
It's well worth stopping into. It's a smaller park, heavy traffic, used in the winter. You'll see the footprints in the snow, and they have a wide variety of compound equipment too, so it's a good one for that. My apologies for this picture being a little blurry, but certainly you get the point. This is at ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut. They did a combination. So behind this turf, you'll see that they have a poured rubber area. And then here is the 2 to 5 area over at Sacred Heart with sand, the sand play area. And then here's a rubber site just to show you what it looks, that we can do that as well. And then I want to show you, I hope I'm still presenting. Hang on.
Summer, where was that last one? Can you go back one slide?
Yep. That. There you go.
Yeah, that poured rubber right there. That one. Where is that in Connecticut?
It's not. This is in Northbridge, Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool playground with a lot of climbers. That's neat.
This site is, and here's that spinner that we were talking about. And actually, here's the tower in the background in a different color. But these nets I will share with the group. They do not render well, and even in pictures, they, to me, are never as exciting as like these huge post and platform structures. They don't look as exciting. But if you get out there with the kids, they go crazy over this, especially today with the, there's a lot of excitement around like American Ninja Warrior and these obstacle courses. They can accommodate a ton of children. There's that over-under play. So people are always surprised at how great these are for children with mobility impairments, for their upper body strength and the play value that they have with their friends, which is really critical. That's what kids are seeking more than anything, is that social play and being able to get around the playground, to have that interaction. So yeah, I love these nets. I know that they're not on your playground design, and that's really just because we're short on space, but I'm a big fan of them. And then I just wanted to share with you the footprint. So you can see the use zones. As of right now, it is pretty snug, so we wouldn't have room, Pam, to add another spinner bowl, unless we like changed something, which of course, based on the feedback of the group, I'm open to doing. But if you did open this up to a rectangle, there's your other 2 spinner bowls, or different types of spinning, or playpen, whatever the case. Are there any other questions?
Summer, I just have a quick question about the that carousel that looks like it's flush to the ground. Because most of them that we see, you know, there's some bit of elevation there. Can you just kind of walk through a little bit about like the safety and how the mechanism works, and in terms of anything getting stuck under there? And you know, it's just something that's a little different concept than I think I'm used to. So it would just be great to understand a little better how that one works, since it looks
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah, there's, so when you get into the technical aspects, now you're really putting me on the spot. I might have to send you our specs. But I know that there is a bearing system that's underneath that unit. And the advantage of having it flush is really to make it as inclusive as possible for children with mobility impairments to be able to get on their own, right? Because that's one of the things that we're studying when we talk about the Compan Play Institute. Is like, what is the experience for kids that need that additional support? And for every child, right? Like stepping up onto a unit. If it's a higher spinner, what's it like for the caregiver who may have to physically support a child getting in and out of their chair? Is that comfortable for them? Are there hand grips for the child to be able to pull themselves onto the unit? So this structure being flush with the ground, that's the whole reasoning behind it. And I mean, that's what makes it as inclusive as it is, right? Like we have other spinners that I still think are very strong in the inclusive factor, but this one is probably the best for that.
And Summer, is there any of those particular ADA spinners in Connecticut that we can look at?
Yes, I can get you a list, but I have installed this. So in Windsor and that actually is there's wood chips for most of the playground, but we did rubber around that site. And I will share with you, forgive me, I missed your name, but whomever asked that last question, that we do have kids, when there's wood chips at the site, those become part of play, right? And so they were putting them in the track. I visit that playground with my own kids, and we've just popped them out and it spins beautifully. But that has been a little bit of a hiccup. You would not have that at your site because you're not doing a mixed surfacing site.
Pam, can I ask you, does our big spinner at Cherry Lawn, is that from Compan?
No.
Okay, thanks for confirming. The reason I asked that, Summer, is it's so exciting to look at, but the kids nor the mothers or nannies can push it. It's so heavy. So that was kind of if we had known that, we might not have done that, or on that surface, so to speak. So, but I love the spinner that's so handicap accessible. Thank you for showing it to us.
Right, and the spinner, just say this publicly, but the spinner that's at Cherry Lawn indeed is much heavier than we thought when it would become spinning. But it is also a climber, which I've noticed firsthand. The kids love to climb all over it, but the spinning aspect is not as exciting.
I'll just add to growing up with those old spinners, those big old metal spinners. I'm very glad to see that this type of spinner is very accessible. But I was most noticing, because it's flush with the ground, the most common injury is eliminated, which is kids getting caught underneath it when they're spinning you. But I'm also glad to see, it's wonderful to see that you can just roll onto it. Thank you.
Summer, can you talk a little bit about the materials you use for your equipment? Because it sounds like it also probably does not emit many things into our atmosphere or to our kids as well, of the fact that you use so many environmental materials.
Yeah, so the panels are HDPE, high density polyethylene. Those are the recycled materials. Our decks are a high pressure laminate, and that too is recycled material. The posts are hot dip galvanized, and then in some situations powder coated. That's really the town's preference on the aesthetic. What else? The spinner bowls, so that would still be that same HDPE material. Those are extremely dense. And the other thing I'll add is all of our equipment is tested at really remarkable weights. So we have a basket swing, for example. It's not on this design. That is another option, though, that you could put in one of these bays, and it's really inclusive structure too, that I'm sure hopefully some of you have seen those Compan basket swings. They are really loved by communities, but those are tested at 4,200 pounds. So the idea is, like, as an adult, feel free to get on this equipment and play with your children and take comfort in knowing that it's made for that. This is made for public setting. We have over $2 million worth of equipment in Bridgeport. They went with Compan because of the reliability and the quality of the materials. There are parts on your playground that we do keep stainless steel. This slide right here, the larger unit, that was originally banister bars. I took them out because I feel like people get nervous about banister bars openly. They're a great play component, but I added a slide instead. But we keep those stainless steel. And the reason we do that is because it allows for a better slide moving down.
I just need to interject because on my screen it keeps saying that if the organizer doesn't rejoin, the session could end. It's not ending, but I just wanted to say that God forbid it just blips out. I've never seen that message before.
Summer, in terms of the colors look really great. I guess for me, I did Playground by the Sound many years ago, and we actually do have a compound structure. It was the water feature.
Okay.
I was just wondering about the color and the material. I know the material is, sustainable, recycled and everything, but how does it hold up in terms of like color and how the playground looks after a while? Because I have to admit that was one of my concerns with Compan, because I saw it at Cherry Lawn and also at Weed Beach. The paneling got a little beat and it looks a lot more worn very quickly than some of the other ones that I've seen in town, especially. So
Yep.
if you could, I know this is all new, so I'm not saying there's anything, but.
No, I honestly, I greatly appreciate these questions because it gives me an opportunity to address something that you're accurate about. So that equipment was installed, at least it's older equipment. It's past before my time, and we have some other equipment too. I forgot, we recently installed at the Greenwich YWCA, and they had Compan equipment too beforehand. We just put in new equipment last year. Our panels did not have a UV stabilized. They are now. And so the color is going to hold up significantly better than it did in the past. So thank you for the question. I appreciate that. 20 years down the road, you probably are going to have slight fading, but that's going to happen with any company that you partner with. And as far as the posts, the same thing on the swings. You might need some touch up on those paint. We'll give you the RAL numbers. It's not special. I don't believe that it's like special coated paint, that you can get that at like a Sherman-Williams or something.
Question I had for you was the budget. Pam gave you a budget. Does what you've presented, is that within that budget, or are you doing all the prep work? Everything's included? Just so far, I know that prices change, but.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And I will admit I went over budget on this project, not intentionally. I don't know if I lost track of that 175 number, but when I was on earlier today and I heard you say that, uh-oh. So this project that I'm showing in front of you, I'm glad that this is not our final design, because I'll make sure that I am right where you need us to be. With surfacing, this is at 225.
Just to be clear, this is ARPA money, so, and it's already been voted on by the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the RTM. So it does need to come in at that 175 number.
Okay. So what's included in that number right now is equipment installation and surfacing, as well as freight. So, and the town would be taking on the removal of the old equipment, was my understanding, and preparing the site. So that means excavating down for the depth that you need based on your surfacing. So it's about 7 inches, and leveling the site.
Summer, was that number with the turf or with this current turf that we're seeing in the photo, or with the pour and play? Because I know you had said there's a little bit of savings on with using the turf.
Yep, that's with turf.
That's
And
with
the
turf.
Yeah, the turf is $100,000. It's $99,960, but I'm rounding up.
And what would pour and play be for the same space?
It would be slightly higher, but about the same. And that's with your sub base as well.
And that would be with like a concrete around the edging?
That's with a turn down edge.
With the turn down edge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just another question. I noticed that some of the samples or I guess projects that you showed us included some wood pieces too. And I wasn't thinking necessarily for this one, but Compan does wood structures too. Like it looked more like natural wood, I noticed.
It is. It's black locust robinia. And yes, it represents about 50% of our portfolio worldwide. And we're starting to see a huge demand for it here in the US. That's what's at Earth Place over in Westport. And a lot of the private schools are moving in that direction, but the towns as well. It really depends on the aesthetic that you're looking for. Yeah, it's a great product.
I have to hop, Susan and Pam and the rest of you all. Thank you so much, Summer. This was very, very thorough. We appreciate it. And you have some great designs. So somebody else has taken over the notes. Just I took through 943 and then I'm checking out. Okay, thank you.
Everyone has been very generous with your time. I was hoping that we're going to have an opportunity to do any revisions. If anyone has any strong feedback, I would greatly appreciate it if you would share.
So, my feedback is that I love the musical elements. I think that those are, I agree with you. Adults, children, and everybody loves to hear what type of music they can make at a park, which I think is be really unique to all the playgrounds we have in town right now. And yeah, I think it is aesthetically pleasing. I was a little confused. I thought the turf was actually a little less than rubber. But
so I think that it is. I didn't get a formal rubber quote on this one, Pam. So I would imagine it would come in higher, but I went back through some of my old proposals or like recent proposals, and the rubber is a few dollars higher per square foot. And just keep in mind the numbers that I'm giving you include the sub base, but you know, I hope that we're well aligned with our competitors on that.
well, as Patty said, we do have to come in at the 175, so it will be very interesting to see how you come back with a final design and to see how this changes this. Yep.
It might mean me for a greater discount. The town, if you guys like this, you know. Is there anyone else? Sarah, it looks like.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. I know, but based on the other meetings that we've all had, that shade is something that everyone really would like. I think some people liked the idea of the swings being shaded. Other people liked it being maybe where some of the benches might be, because we really need more benches over there too, or yeah, benches or tables or whatever. So I definitely think that kind of, because we don't have any big mature trees. I'm sure you saw that there. And the only other thing, and that I think a lot of people have been asking about, is the climber. So, but I also know they're really expensive. So maybe this isn't the playground for it, but I feel like a lot of people were asking for, right, Pam, the climber?
Yeah, I agree, but I think that this tower really gives that climbing effect, which I thought was pretty cool, without having to
Yeah,
put
no,
in something
definitely.
completely separate. I thought
Yeah.
that climbing element of that tower is really neat, in my opinion.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and benches, the town will be taking care of that. We have money for that separately, so no worries on that. We're also adding 2 ARPA picnic benches as well there.
Okay, so then maybe again shading over those or something, right? That so that they're covered or something. I just think needs to have shading.
The challenge with the shade, and I understand, I'm a mom, I mean, I'm out at these playgrounds on the weekends too, not just for always professionally, but the challenge with the shade is that they require huge footers. So when you see those shade units, they're relatively, I mean, they're fairly costly. Anywhere from like 15 to 25,000. We did one at the site in Greenwich at the Y, and it was $30,000. And so when you are looking at doing a site with rubber, and because of the size of the site, it would just eat up so much of your budget. I don't want to discourage you, but I think that might be something that's worth adding, like in a different phase, just to make sure that you get the playground, the play value.
Right, I agree with that. And I also think it is nice to see the 2 units that you have do have covers. Like the tower has a cover and the small unit also has a hood, which is interesting.
Summer, I think the most important thing for this group right now is I think your design was really great, and I love the story and the quality of your materials that you spoke about, but it really comes down to what we have to spend. We don't have 225, we only have 175, as Patty already mentioned. So if you can come back to us with I don't know what you can do to make it get to that, but it has to get to that in order for us to even consider using compan. I think, which you will agree. Otherwise, we don't have money to spend on this. So I think before we make our final decision, we need to have you come back with something that fits our budget so that we can make a decision that's comparable to all the budgets that we're getting, all the plans that we're getting from the other vendors. So I think that's the most important thing at this. Ruth, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say one other thing I noticed in some of your photos. Something like a balance. Some of them were like those circle balance things where they're like a foot off the ground maybe, or like a balance beam. Just something that can be away from the climbers that could work on something. And again, I know we're over budget, so I don't know how it would come in, but it'd be nice to see something. I know my daughter is very into like the balance beams and things like that. Just something that can be something other than climbing, lower to the ground, that might give another form of lower body coordination.
Okay, thank you.
I want to add to the group as well that the other groups are also having to redesign because of price. So this is something I think when we give each outfit their final design chance when they submit, I think that it's going to have to be that hard set 175. And I do know that the others also have to do some redesigning as well to be there.
So Pam, would it be realistic for them to get something to us before our next meeting so that we can have a more informed decision decision-making process on this? Because I mean, I know we're getting close to, we keep these meetings to about an hour, as you know. So realistically, do you think we could get some of that before that?
I think we're going to need to reach out to the 3 companies that we decided to allow to present these plans and have a date in which they're all submitted. And that's when the committee at that point will go over with a fine-tuned comb and decide which company we want to go with. And maybe
So-
that's our October meeting.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. The next step has to be, we can't talk about something, we don't have material, the new plan for. That's what I'm saying. And I think that the next item on the agenda, which is to talk about the design process, timeline, and recommendation. Do you want to do that for the October meeting? Because I think we're pretty much at the end of our time here, and I think it requires a lot of thought.
I wanted to look at let's see, we actually have another meeting in September.
Okay.
I do not think that I will be available. I'll be at my convention, but this meeting still can be conducted, or we can go for a special meeting at the end of September.
I would rather have you need to be on timelines and the playground design process. And it sounds like our vendors need a little more than a few weeks, 2 weeks to do any revisions, don't you think?
Yeah, so here's the timeline. We can look at, after we have September 22nd, we can do a special meeting 1 week later if we want to. And then the next meeting is October 13th. If the companies strive to get a plan of all final designs submitted to us by, say, October 10th, then we can have the meeting on October 13th with all the final plans. How does that sound?
So we would skip the 22nd meeting, you're saying?
No, I think we could have a special meeting if you want the following week.
You mean not September 22nd? I'm confused, sorry.
Right, it would be September 29th. We could do a special meeting if everybody can make it, and we'll just have a good, solid, short meeting based on what we'll be doing on the 13th of October.
Okay, so we talk about and any of the design that people think that we need to incorporate in this site.
Yeah, we can talk about everything we've learned.
Are people okay with meeting on the 29th and doing that kind of like rehash of what we've learned so far? Talk a little bit about timeline and how, what we need to do as a group. And then the next meeting on the 13th, we hopefully have all the final designs. Is that what you're saying? And maybe more to talk. And that, did you say one of these should be in person? Was it the 13th meeting you thought? Because what were you thinking, Pam? You had mentioned that before we started.
I don't know if it will fit with everybody's schedule. It's possible that we can't do that and we'll stick to a virtual platform. So let's discuss that at September 29th special meeting.
Sounds fair. Okay. So does anybody have any other?
Sorry, one last thing. If the space is expanding, then we can get started on those designs as soon as possible. That's the only thing that we would know.
I personally think that if we expand the site, which we've discussed, but if we do, it's just more money. Every company's struggling to come in at the 175 as is. So, I mean, everybody obviously wants to give the most, most fun and pleasantly, aesthetic looking and, the proper ADA surfacing, but 175 is not a lot of money.
Maybe expanding the site phase 2. No, I echoed. I don't know if you heard me. So it could be phase 2. Sure, it could be a phase 2 to expand the site.
It's a sliver. It's really not a lot. It's really making that odd shape into a rectangle. So it's possible to do something like that at a later time, maybe with wood chips. There's a little area with wood chips that, you can put in another spinner, as Summer said. But